Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, joining us from Davos, Switzerland to unpack President Ramaphosa's address at the World Economic Forum is I Tshepo Mongoai, SABC News economics editor. Tshepo, the president has just concluded his address. I want us to start from the tail end and then we'll work our way back up to him speaking about the G20 priorities for South Africa. Let's start with him now being asked that all-important question, why a foreign investor should invest in South Africa. Just give us a summation of just that statement we've heard from the president.
Well, I think that speaks to the SA good story that many of the ministers that we spoke to have been making reference to. I think one being the issue of the Eskom that has turned around and has managed to keep the lights on within a very short space of time. Of course, some of the work started some while back, but he has demonstrated that the country continues to offer ample opportunities for investors who are seeking a return on their investment. And of course, the GNU as well, where he got an applause saying that South African government through the GNU was able to be established or formed within 4 weeks. And in many countries, it could take up to a year before a government can actually be established.
Which I suppose,
speaking about, some...
Pardon me there, which I'm saying is probably very critical for most investors. If you're in business, you want a politically stable country, and it seems with South Africa, we have demonstrated that ability for a swift and just stress-free transition of power, but also, I suppose, even with the energy security, quite important for businesses because it really did damage or see a lot of businesses suffering in the country when we lacked that stability insofar as the energy is concerned.
Absolutely, Bongiwe. The delegation here that is representing South Africa were able to demonstrate some of the progress made, not only in the area of energy, but also in just energy transition, and especially in green energy. Some of the work that has been done, especially in terms of ensuring that Eskom has a sizable and growing percentage of green energy that's connected to the grid. I mean, we are close to having a surplus, if not already, power. And there are already some who are saying that Eskom is now looking at encouraging people to actually use more of its electricity because they are able to generate more. But also in terms of policy, there are strides that have been made in terms of policy formulation in addressing a number of issues. And of course, some of them remain just that, policy. Still short on implementation in various areas, but of course the visa regime that is being changing and improving to ensure that we're bringing the skills. There are some level of improvement when it comes to certain crimes. So there are pockets or so-called green shoots that South Africa can actually take out and say, this is our story and we are serious, we mean what we do, we mean what we say, and we are dedicated and we will improve on those shortcomings. Infrastructure, there are some work that are being done in terms of the ports, the rail infrastructure, for example. That's one area that's bringing the private sector to ensure that there is more traffic on our rail. Passenger rail, for example, at the moment, more trains are starting to move. There's serious renovation that is being done on our rail for passengers in terms of infrastructure.
Which speaks to Operation Vulindlela, which many don't praise enough, honestly, because there has been quite a lot of progress insofar as rail is concerned in this country, given where we started off a very low base. But then he spoke on debt sustainability for low-income countries. This is priority number 4. When we speak of South Africa's GNU or the G20, presidency. Talk to us about this aspect, which of course formed part of his speech. Many had expected would form part of his speech because a great number of countries on the continent are taking a huge chunk of their GDP to service debt, which essentially means very little development takes place on the continent or most of these countries.
Yeah, that's so true. The risk premium for developing country or nation in the South is quite high. Many investors, especially financial institutions or multilateral organizations that often are the only institutions that can actually assist financially those developing countries, charge them a premium. And that is one issue that has always been raised in such a forum as to, I mean, if you look at most of the developing countries, the default rate has declined, but yet they are charged a premium when they want financial assistance. So that's one issue that is being raised. The president said that they are looking at consolidating some of the initiatives, global initiatives, that are aimed at helping, supporting developing countries, especially Africa on the continent. So there are efforts to deal with that. Whether South Africa in its presidency will succeed in that, of course, there are still doubts, but definitely the presidency of South Africa is prepared to put this issue on an international stage so that there are some views on it and perhaps it can be addressed, and African countries can also go into the international markets and be charged fairly.
Tshepo, thank you very much. We'll most certainly continue to interact with you as the days progress. That's Tshepo Mongoai, SABC News economics editor, who's at the World Economic Forum for us in Davos.